Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today we're doing a bit of a recap. This is actually the start of the second year of the Short Funk recordings. I'm vlogging this currently. Who knows how it'll work out? Sometime a little bit past 7 a.m, and I thought, I've got to start recording these Short Funks again. What I've done in order to capture some of the video footage is I've captured a lot of local footage of the area and this kind of stuff. So I have stock footage that I can use in future Short Funk video components. And it's interesting actually because there's an issue associated with where I can put this footage. I thought about creating a new channel for Short Funk, but YouTube has all these rules associated with how many subscribers you have initially when you create the channel, which now I think is just destined for making sure that people don't create vlogs that take up a wide variety of their slash directories. So in this regard, it's very difficult to start a new vlog with a decided name in order to get people to view in early. You've got to go through we've got to get 100 people on this thing. So it's not very good for a kickoff situation. Rather than do this, I've decided to put these videos on my personal YouTube page and just take it from there. In terms of a reintroduction, my name is Tom Barbalet. I was born in Australia. I lived in the UK for about 4 years over the past... I lived in the UK when I was very young, and then I came back to the UK and lived there from, 2001 through to 2005. In fact, it was 4 years exactly to the day for me. My wife, or fiancée as she was then, came out and we got married in the UK. But for the past 11 or so years, coming up to 12, February next year, I think, we've lived in the US. Initially, for the first 6 years, we lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, and now we live in San Jose, California. We've lived in various parts of the Bay Area over this time. I guess one would call me an expat in some regard, living in the US, with certain observations associated with that. Politically, I don't find any representation in the contemporary political parties. I'm pretty clearly affiliated with what would be historically called the libertarian left. However, because I think the libertarian term has been heavily overloaded, I would call myself part of the unauthoritarian left, which is just another way of saying libertarian, but just making it an anti of what it should be, as opposed to what Ron Paul and others would choose it to be. And in this light, Short Funk is a series of recordings that capture a variety of my ideas about a variety of different topics. I try to keep them interesting as much as possible. Recording daily makes it rather curious in terms of the various things that come up, but that is what Short Funk is. For the past 20 years, I've created an open source simulation called Noble Ape. I'm going to talk quite a bit about that because we're just coming up to the 20-year anniversary, and I've had a bit of a reinvigoration associated with my work with Noble Ape. More on that in a future recording. But as these things stand, Short Funk exists as a daily podcast, but I typically release it in bursts now. I had for a period of time been very diligent associated with posting an episode daily for folks that wanted to listen in. And then I realized that the iOS podcast app would actually do that for me. So if I released a burst of podcasts, then it would pick up the daily podcast as it moved through because dates in the future wouldn't be captured as much. And also I tend to record these things very much in bursts, basically. 3 to 5 at a time, sometimes as many as 7, sometimes as many as 10 if I travel. So Short Funk has become a thing in and of itself. In addition to Short Funk, I have a few other podcasts. I have a kind of lingering podcast called Ape Reality that I'll be posting more audio to, but really, that's probably 5 to 10 posts a year. It used to be almost daily. I think I'd record it maybe 3 times a week, sometimes even 4 times a week. In addition to that, I have Model Rail Radio, which is really my flagship podcast. I'm actually wearing a Model Rail Radio t-shirt for the benefits of those watching the video version of this thing. And in that light, Model Rail Radio was an experiment, very similar to Short Funk, to get a sense of how big these podcasts could get if you recorded on specific topics that people enjoyed to listen to. And in that regard, I really severely underestimated how many people did model railroading, because Model Rail Radio exploded in terms of listeners, in terms of interested folk. it really became something that was in and of itself. And as testament to that, I can go pretty well anywhere in the world and I will have model rail radio listeners, sometimes lamented by my wife, but actually something that's very curious and really quite fascinating that the model railroading hobby actually touches so many people in so many different areas of the world. It's one of these hobbies where people talk about it like it's, dying, that people are no longer interested in model railroading, but actually what my surveying through model rail radio has shown is that it's quite an interesting and quite large hobby, with new folks getting interested in it on a regular basis. And strangely now, because we live in a digital age, tuning into my podcasts, model rail radio, when they start getting interested in it. In addition to this, I have a podcast which is nominally a weekly podcast called Stone Ape, where I talk with an individual called Heron Stone. He's a bit of an acquired taste. I've had a number of people that listen to my other podcasts that don't listen to Stone Ape, and we have a number of fans that are fixated, zealots in fact, associated with the Stone Ape format. So it's one of these curious things where it applies to some of the people some of the time, and some of the people love it all of the time. So that's Stone Ape. In addition, for a number of years, I recorded a Biota podcast, which is like an artificial life simulation podcast, which is very similar to my open source simulation Noble Ape. That lost participants, which is a very curious situation for a podcast to be in. I've recorded a few incidental Biota podcasts since, but it's really something that has fallen off primarily because a number of the participants that used to be regulars have moved away from the field of artificial life, or many of them have joined startups or done day jobs or done a variety of different things which have stopped them participating actively in the Biota podcast. So you'll certainly find my name associated with that as well. In addition, I've appeared as a guest or a co-host on probably half a dozen other podcasts. So I found podcasting really to be my format, very different to vlogging, but I'm willing to give this vlogging thing a try as well. So I'm Tom Barbalet. This is the Short Funk Podcast. This is the announcement for the second year of the Short Funk Podcast. I'm trying to do vlogging associated with this as well. I was hoping, like I said, to integrate a variety of different other video pieces of footage and what have you, but for now it's just my mug until I get that thing together. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.